This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Wow, I don't know where to begin because I
do.
Where you start then?
All right, I'm going to start right here.
Okay.
To this series, as Churio strikes out in LCS. In game 4 of the LCS, and there goes Otani. Shohei lighting up the highlights already. And a swing and a miss. Otani deals for the Brewers. And a swing and a miss. Oh my goodness! Shohei Otani!
Great.
Whoa. Is it a swing? It is. Otani, chance to come right back on the mound. Strikeouts through 5 innings. 1 and 2 on Terrain. And a swing and a miss. Otani, did he? Otani! Otani has done it again!
All right, so you sent me a different clip, but that was sequential of his 10 strikeouts, 6 runless innings, and 3 home runs.
I was having the argument this morning before I sent you it with somebody, and I think they succumbed. Not a Dodger fan, but somebody, I said it's the greatest athletic performance in baseball history. And they said, that's quite a statement. And I said, I'm on the fence whether it may be in sports history because...
Well, see, that's interesting because that's where I was prepared to disagree with you when you were winding up there. You said athletic achievement, and then you pivoted to in baseball. And I think that there's a very strong argument to be made for that. If you get into sports, I think that's going to be a harder thing to defend. But if anyone could do it, it would certainly be you.
So I think I lean towards in sports, and I'm going to say why. By all metrics, he beats Babe Ruth at this stage in his career and at Babe Ruth's stage in his career. In terms of my memory, I'm way too, believe it or not, young to remember Jim Thorpe, who many people when I was growing up said was one of the greatest athletes and athletic performances of all time. I do remember then Jenner with one of the great athletic performances of all time. And by the way, Bo Jackson was, not in one defined game. Wilt Chamberlain is in a defined game. Michael Jordan and Kobe in defined games. But this, to me, breaks the mold. How do you have 10 strikeouts, 6 runless and 3 home runs? Remember Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, 3 home runs in the World Series, and he was celebrated for all time, and rightfully so. But this guy does it while being Sandy Koufax, Reggie Jackson, all combined into one. It's wild to me.
It's very hard to argue. I mean, it was the performance of performances. And I believe when they gave him the MVP, the commentator called him the best player the sport has ever seen. And I
how could you disagree with it?
I couldn't, but it was also very strange to hear someone saying that. I mean, granted, even at home, but like someone saying that into a mic, amplified into a stadium, amplified into the baseball world. It was just because it's not really something you can disagree with, but it was he's outperformed and gotten to a level where it's reasonable for somebody like that, who is largely supposed to be impartial, to just throw that out the window.
It was such a dominating performance. And I mentioned Bo Jackson, and one of the other ones that sticks in memory is, you remember the Vince Young Texas USC game? Are you old enough?
I was sitting in row 36.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't that like a man against boys kind of a game? And this game had the same feel for it. I mean, how do you dominate a game of 11 players on each side just so single-handedly? It's astonishing in that way. It's not basketball where there's 5 players and you can carry the team like Michael or Kobe or Wilt or Shaq or somebody like that. It's 11 players and you're both pitching and hitting. It's wild to me.
It really is. I mean, And, to point out, yes, the corollaries with the Texas USC game, which was a devastating game for me, but the corollaries are there. But then the crazy thing to think about is that then you're going from college to the pros, where it's the most elite of the most elite. Everyone's making life-changing generational, not everyone, but most people are making enormous sums of money, and he's still dominating to that level. It's like, you looked at some of the shots of the Brewers bench at times. It just looks sad. I felt bad for them because they looked like.
I mean, if you're going to get wiped out, if you're going to get swept, you might as well get swept by a historical kind of once in a generation deal. I mean, and I read something else today for those who were saying, you mentioned the amounts. What's his contract? $700 million?
Something like that. But it's like, what, 90% deferred because he and his tax professionals are brilliant.
Yeah. And by the way, didn't he buy Adam's house and then have to not move into La Cañada? And I remember all that happening because the Japanese media had found out where he lived. But
yeah.
They've already, according to an analysis I saw this morning, and I can believe this, that $700 million, and you bring up a very good point, because it was deferred. The Dodgers, what the out-of-pocket amount now has already been recouped, apparently by an economic analysis that I saw, by merchandising revenue, ticket sales, blah, 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 blah. I mean, if you do all of the factors.
By the way, that was true yesterday.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
And then he did this, and now we're headed into the World Series, where I would say there's a reasonable chance that he becomes a back-to-back World Series champion. And then what's that match?
Which hasn't been done in how long? I mean, there's people who have not been alive 25 years, I believe.
I think it's something like that. Yeah. And so, yes, I mean, it's wild to think that they've already accomplished this, and this guy's just going to keep racking up the accolades the whole time that this contract arrangement is in place. So how smart does everyone look now in hindsight?
It's really astonishing. Does not do it justice. It's really an incredible thing. How do I segue from Otani to John Bolton? Can you find a segue there?
Well, there's a photo on LosAngelesMag.com of Bolton right outside his house. The press posted up just like the Japanese press were outside of Adam's old house. How's that? Very good. I love that. And for those of you who listen or are in the weeds, I remember this well from Japanese OJ, which was a case Miura that I had many years ago, and I had to cut a deal with the Japanese press. Stop staying outside of my house when I go out to run in the morning, and I will do periodic press conferences. So I get it. But they lived up to their end of the bargain. So I remember that well. But John Bolton, boy, who's the busiest lawyer around right now is Abby Lowell. Yeah. John is represented by Abby Lowell, who's our co-counsel on Hunter Biden. Tish James is represented by Abby Lowell. And I always give a shout out to David Kolansky, who I think is one of the bright young superstars who's with Abby, they were at Winston and Strawn back when we did the Biden case together. And Abby has got his hands full, I'll tell you. I mean, Bolton is in Maryland and Tish James is in Virginia, is she not? And I think so.
Although the rumor I hear is that both Tish James and Comey are going to be superseded in another jurisdiction, or at least Tish James will. And boy, they are lining up. DOJ is lining up right in a row. There also was an appointment by a gentleman. Maybe you can find this, Gary. I forget his name. I read it today. One of the lawyers who was involved in Arizona during the election, the 2020 elections, was appointed as a special governmental lawyer to investigate at DOJ. So that's basically a 4-month commitment. And you can see what is unfolding here at DOJ.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just searching here, trying to. Oh, yes.
So Bolton,
I see it here. I believe
there's a lot of people who are saying that Bolton's indictment is substantively more credible than Tish James or Comey. I have no information. I haven't talked to Abby about it, so I don't know that. But I wouldn't be so sure that the way that it's being reported, at least on the classified documents prosecutions, are always fascinating to me. You and I have talked about this before under SEPA. I mean, I always refuse to submit to the classification protocol for precisely this reason, because God knows down the line somebody wants to take you out because you violated some classified documents thing. I've done it on more than 3 occasions so far where I just refuse. I think there's a problem with requiring lawyers to submit to it, because if you're going to bring a public indictment, then why is it that you make the lawyer have to have a security clearance, and why does the government get to vet them? And I don't know if Abby is going to raise that issue, but you're hard-pressed from my standpoint to have a national security advisor indicted for having classified documents, for the very same reasons, by the way, that I always used to say, and I've gotten into fights over this. I always thought the classified documents prosecution of President Trump was the silliest prosecution I can think of, because if he's the apex and all of the classified documents are at his disposal and presumably to educate or inform or give him the intelligence, how do you then say, oh, he's mishandling them? What are you talking about? It makes no sense. I have the same kind of arguments derivatively down the line for Bolton.
Yeah. The lawyer, I found it, by the way, that you were talking about is named Kurt Olson. He was appointed by the Justice Department to. What
do they say? Can you give a synopsis of that? Because
I'll read you the headline and the sub headline here. White House hires Stop the Steal lawyer to investigate 2020 election claims. The appointment of Kurt Olson comes as the Justice Department has sought voter information from the states. I haven't had a chance to read the whole article, obviously, because we're right in the middle of this, but that was sort of the part that was revealed to me that got me to the answer you were looking for.
Right. And between it really has, the narrative has really changed about the 2020 elections. I mean, there's been so many prosecutions, disbarments, disciplinary actions over lawyers involved in the 2020 election, the protesters, J6 protesters. The narrative has completely shifted, which is an amazing kind of turning of the Titanic, if you will, in terms of what has happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's taken, several months, but I mean, that's why they say that, it's the turning of a ship like that. I mean, that takes a significant amount of time, but they've managed to do it.
Yeah, it's astonishing. I don't think anybody could have prognosticated where we would be in 2025 as we're getting almost into 2026. When you think about 5 years removed or 6 years removed, it's just an astonishing change in not only the narrative, but what is now perceived, or what a lot of people perceive as the facts, and the legal theories and that people have been hoisted on, but not the least of which coming out of Georgia and Arizona and actually in California as well, with John Eastman's prosecution, or by the State Bar of California. I mean, it is really quite the turnaround. And by the way, I think that the appointment by DOJ has great ramifications for the lawsuits, the Smartmatic, Dominion lawsuits that are still left. And I think Fox may be thinking to themselves at some point, we paid $700 or $800 million, and now there's this kind of whole change here in terms of the narrative, and that we could do a whole show on that. Yeah,
I believe it was $780 billion million, if memory serves. So
yeah, and then the last thing is the Voting Rights Act at the U.S. Supreme Court, and there's been a little bit of a controversy. Shout out to Brett, who does our research. Yeah. The controversy, and as I was listening to the oral arguments on C-SPAN, nerd confession, but
I was going to say, you're going to drive the bus here because I was not listening to the oral arguments.
Yes, I don't think so. I would say I can go from Otani to Justice Jackson in the Voting Rights Act. The interesting thing about that was she had compared the American with Disabilities Act with the Voting Rights Act and the analysis. And that has sparked quite a controversy in the legal nerd world. And I can hardly wait to see how they navigate this. Justice Roberts, this will arguably, I think, will be his legacy, will be this opinion, although it's hard to prognosticate, but he's been kind of the fifth out of 5-4 on a number of important decisions. But this is a legal crusade, for lack of a better term, something that he's got his roots in since he was in the White House counsel's office many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I believe we have an opinion expected by June of 2026. Is that right?
That's what they're saying, right in time to before the midterms. So as when people say, why do elections matter? I like to say because who appoints the U.S. Supreme Court matters. And by the way, if you don't think it matters, as we're taping this, but it'll drop tomorrow. We're taping this on No King's Day. And then did you see the Trump little trolling of the No King's Day? Said something to the effect of, thank goodness that there's no kings and I'm still president, or something like that. I want to thank you all.
Yeah, I saw it. It was.
I will give him this. He's the king of trolling. I don't know if that's him or if it's Dan Scavino or whatever else, but there is.
I think it's him. I mean, it comes out so often and so quickly in some instances that it's tough to imagine that he's got others writing that crap for him.
Anyway, Gary, thank you for making the time for this. I know that this weekend is so jam-packed that you turned down Chargers suite tickets
and free parking, which is quite an add-on in Los Angeles. Family comes first.
Speaking of June of 2026, early runner for Father of the Year. I'll give you that. 2026.
Doing my best. Eye on the prize. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time as well, and you have a great rest of your weekend as well.
Thank you. See you, Gary.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.